And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal and casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. We're focused on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and today's episode is ethics. And Sean from Trek on the Tube is joining me today. Hello, Sean.
I am training my rudeness. As you speak, I'm on my phone.
Oh my God, you're such a millennial.
I know.
What are you? Are you a millennial?
I don't know. What am I?
How
I
old are
was.
you?
I'm a '90s kid. That's what we call it ourselves, isn't it? Like those that are
Oh, I
born in the
think
'90s.
I think you are officially like you're the elders
I
of the
watched the
millennial.
Powerpuff Girls.
You're,
I don't know. What is a millennial? A millennial is someone born in like the year 2000 or something, isn't it?
I think technically 1986.
So my daughter is what? She's born in literally the future, right?
Post she's like
Wasn't the
she's
Generation Y or
Kryptonian.
Generation Z or something?
She's a Kryptonian. She was grown in a husk. See, I brought it into the episode. Yes.
My daughter was not grown in a husk. How dare you call my wife a husk?
Just kidding. Hey, Sean, I have a personal favor to ask you.
Oh God.
I must die, and I need you to kill me.
Well, let's go to Belgium, where euthanasia is legal.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a good thing to talk about. But let's save it for after the summary. Do you want to give it, or shall I?
After the what? I can do the summary.
Oh, yes. Awesome. I get to kick back.
I can do the summary. I'm a little
Go for
fuzzy
it.
on certain things, but okay. So there's two things going on. The most important of which is some asshole put some sort of dangerous substance in a barrel, and it made the barrel fall on Worf. So I hope that guy gets fired.
Oh my gosh.
No, just
Okay,
kidding.
wait.
Okay,
Stop right there. It was a freak accident. It was
a freak accident. It was a freak accident that no one could expect. A barrel falls on Worf's back and breaks many of his vertebrae, and he becomes fully paralyzed. What is it, from the legs down or from the waist down? Or
Yeah,
something?
from the waist
So
down.
he's unable to walk, and this is permanent. It's established that Worf will never walk again, and this kind of puts him in a tricky situation because he's Klingon, and in his opinion of his culture, or the way he sees things, he only has one option. It is to die. And so the episode, talks about how essentially Worf asks Commander Riker to kill him in a traditional and kind of a traditional ritual suicide in Klingon culture. And then we also have the side plot where the Enterprise is going out to save a bunch of people that have also...
As it always does. Like
as it always does. There's like an accident or a situation going on a planet or a colony, and so the Enterprise is going to get those people. So we actually see them retrieve people and store them in like I think it's like a hangar bay that they've transformed into sort of
right. Like a triage or something.
Yeah.
And then when Dr. Crusher's rival.
Exactly. And so at the same kind of situation, this other doctor comes in because she's the leading expert in
some kind like these like she's just a researcher who's like advancing like neurogenic something or other.
Exactly. She's a boss at fixing people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so she comes on board and
or killing them. Sorry,
and
I keep interrupting your summary.
She offers a third option to Worf, which at this point the two only options are in his mind he commits suicide, or he regains only 60% of his mobility with traditional healing, and that's not the second option isn't at all an option for him. And so she brings in a third option, which is a radical treatment which could kill him, And if it doesn't kill him, it'll help him regain 100% of his mobility. But it's a risky procedure that's never been done before. And so Crusher goes through some sort of kind of moral dilemma, whether it's a good idea or not to do that. We see a little bit of how her doctor rival is kind of proceeding with these things when she what does she do? She operates on one of these survivors.
Oh yeah,
on the planet.
Oh, she gives or like
Instead
it's more
of
like
standard medical procedure.
Right? She does this
experimental thing, which she defends by saying it had more chances of having her survive, but ultimately it killed her. And so there's a moral dilemma going on between Crusher and her. And eventually, they actually do the procedure on Worf. He accepts. It goes wrong for a while, but because he's a Klingon and he's a boss, he comes back to life.
Because he has like 2 of everything.
He has 2
apparently now I can never erase in my mind
Discovery
because of Star Trek Discovery.
They have 2 of everything. 2.
He has 2 of everything. Okay. You're right. This is
two urethras doesn't mean 2 penises. Just saying.
But the shadow, there was a
shadow.
shadow.
I didn't see a shadow.
There was a shadow. Oh, there was 2 streams in Discovery.
There were 2 streams, but they weren't 2 shadows. Believe me, this was Klingon penis. I was looking.
Did I create a shadow where there was none?
Shadow. You did that.
Oh my gosh.
You did that.
Whoops. Oh
for
my.
For research purposes, I looked long and hard at the Klingon peeing and also the Klingon boobs.
For that ties beautifully into this episode for research purposes. I see. All right, Sean.
I sound like a pervert, but honestly, I find it very.
Wait, you're not finished with your summary. No, go on. But honestly, you find it.
Side note, I find it awesome that we see more of alien anatomy. It's not that I want to see alien genitals. It's just that. it's just that.
That's going in the quotes forever. Database 1. Database 1. record this moment.
This is a side of Star Trek we've never seen before. We've seen alien species, we've seen these cultures, but we've never seen the actual anatomy. And in a day and age where we can have TV mature shows, it's kind of awesome that they do that.
That's true. I agree.
Even though we both agree that Star Trek should be what?
There just should be a Star Trek.
There should be a Star Trek for kids at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. I love the adult Star Trekking. I just think that we're not inspiring the
kid trick. Anyway,
kid that's why Star Trek animated series.
End of the summary. Worf survives, and
lives happily ever after because never again does he deal with recuperation or anything else.
we will address that. I also forgot. I'm sorry, I didn't mention this. Alexander plays a big role in this.
Yes.
Where Worf doesn't want Alexander to see him because he's wounded and weak, and he feels, he's insecure. I suppose this is like the Klingon insecurity. And then there's this whole deal where Riker refuses to kill Worf. But he finds a loophole and finds a way out of it by saying, "I read up on your laws and your rituals, and your tradition says your child should be doing this." So then, Worf is confronted with this fact that he can't ask Alexander to kill him, right? That's not going to go down.
Alexander, I need you to stab me in the heart with this blade, and then pull it out and wipe the blood on your sleeve as I die before you.
I'm just intrigued. The epic speech that Picard has. Well, he's got multiple in this, but he has this big discussion with Riker and tells him all about tradition.
I had that in my notes too.
That's awesome. All right, would he have said the same thing to Alexander?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because we're talking about a kid.
Well, I think if Worf asked Alexander to do it,
he would have run away and cried.
Yeah, I think that Alexander would have had it would not have been a good thing. He knows his son well well enough to know.
Then he would have said no, and then he would have been dishonored, disgraced. It would
Okay,
have been
so
horrible. Both of them, the
I
whole
think this
family.
is a great. I think this is a great way to dive right into our discussion. Awesome summary. Thanks for covering all those awesome points.
Terrible summary.
No, it was actually pretty good. I was I was enjoying it. I mean, it was good. It was so good that I was compelled to participate. And then Arthur needs to be let out. What? One moment. Oh, I'm wireless. I can actually just do this. I can roll over.
My headset is supposed to be wireless as well, but I can't get the friggin' connection to work, the Bluetooth connection to work, so I'm all wired.
It's
It's
I
tricky.
think one day, hopefully soon, you'll be able to upgrade to a Mac, and then you'll never have these problems.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I felt it. I don't know why. I could.
Starfleet Boy, brought to you by Apple Computers.
Oh, come on. Bullshit. I have an announcement to make, by the way, for however many people that listen to us.
Yes, go ahead.
It was recently said by a lot of people, including me, because it was reported so, that Star Trek short treks, which will be coming out in a few days now, were a US exclusive. But change of plans. Canada will be having it as well.
Oh.
It will be on Space Channel on Sunday 7th, between 2 episodes of Doctor Who. So if you're in Canada and you're listening to this podcast, and this is before short treks come out, which is...
I'm actually gonna... No, I know there was a delay in the last... This one's coming out right after we're done.
You'll be able to know that Space Channel will be having short treks. I don't know if they're going to put it on Crave TV, which is the video on demand that we have Star Trek Discovery on in Canada, but it will be on Space Channel. No news for the rest of the world. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm not hype about Runaway, but which will be the first episode.
I'm really excited because I'm hoping to see a shift in... I'm just hoping to glean some kind of difference from season 1. I want to see how the show's evolving, and maybe the short treks will give us a clue into that.
Maybe,
yeah.
Positive.
I do think that there was a lot of discussion around a post that I made about this, where I kind of, in as humorous way as possible, petitioned to CBS to let it be free. I could pay more I wanted to pay more as a US subscriber to see if we can have it broadcast for free. And I got no actual response from CBS, and I also probably tweeted it wrong. But Doomcock felt it important to comment
Really?
I still haven't even responded, because as polarizing as Doomcock is, one responds carefully to the King of Trolls.
One of us needs to get into his DMs and start speaking privately to him, because I'm sure he's absolutely not like his character. Then I would expose him, right? We could expose him on Starfleet Boy as look,
I know.
He isn't how he is.
I've actually poked the Doomcock many times.
The Doomcock?
Yes, many times trying to get some answers about who Doomcock truly is, because I'm intrigued. And the staff. I don't follow Doomcock. I'm sorry, Doomcock, if that offends you, but but the Expanse writers do, and that makes
you
me
don't follow comics,
crazy.
You precede them, right?
What's that?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that. That was good. I totally missed a compliment. Thanks, then. Yeah, sorry.
Did you hear what I said?
I precede them.
Yes.
That was very nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Was that nice? I don't know anymore. I also want to officially state I have an announcement too. I just want you to know that even though we talk incessantly about Star Trek on the show, that Starfleet Boy myself, I'm a rapper. and my fans are called Starfleet, and so I just want to like make that known, and that's been since the beginning of this show. It's just an unknown fact, and so I just want to put that out there and record it here so that everyone knows that.
So Starfleet boy, you know, you have these inside jokes that work only to yourself.
I know.
To execute them on the show.
They're great. Don't you know, when I listen to my show in the car in traffic, it makes me laugh. I'm like, oh.
Well, I'm glad this brings joy to your life twice.
Diving straight into the memory alpha here. But I guess there's a lot of things to talk about. I have a lot of questions.
This is a big episode. This is like a heavy Star Trek episode. Though I don't think it's amazing as an episode. I think the themes that it tackles are really, really great. I just think that I often say this with TNG, but I think that a lot of the themes that they tackle would be better executed as story arcs in seasons rather than just standalone episodes, which is probably my only real complaint.
Right, and I think we've had this discussion a lot of times on the show too. We're aware that within the context of when TNG aired, this was the cutting edge television of the time.
This was the new age.
This format was the
shiz.
I think that I think it's important that we're, as lovers of Star Trek, and it's just this show encompasses all of Star Trek, so we have to kind of talk about it against Discovery, against modern television.
Yeah, well, in context to modern television and what came before. So yeah,
I think that's a good distinction to be made. All right, moving straight into my notes. I will go first. I'm not going to tell you what I thought of the episode. I'm going to try to be very very neutral to see if you can guess what my rating will be.
It could be anything. It could be 0 to 10 with you.
I know.
You never know.
It's true. You never know.
But I mean, the thing is, even if you love an episode, you can give it 3.
I wrote down in my notes the coolest concepts in the episode. Can we talk about the Enterprise safety protocol? Because you brought it up, and I had it in my notes actually, which is, what the F are they doing? Like, how does the computer not know that this like weird gas is being vented from a barrel? You would think, because today we have everything like RFID'd, we have scanners and sensors in barrels, like our actual barrels are smart, right? Like we have all these smart devices today, like now, happening right now. So that's a little thing that, like, as a person of
I don't know. At this point, I don't know. The thing is, when I was a child, my imagination, was greater than it is now, and I used to think that all of these barrels weren't just plastic, right? They were like a special, either an alloy or a special.
That's what they are. Yeah,
plastic,
they
right?
are.
That so the space plastic can contain many, many things and what have you, and so you would imagine that. Itself. You would imagine that whatever's going on with this barrel, whether it's inside or outside of, I don't know what's really going on with it, it would be resistant to it. Or if it isn't resistant, then it's really, really dangerous shit. But then if it is that dangerous, why the hell is it there in the first place and just, stacked up at the top of...
Right, like, there's just
this flimsy shelving,
that, like,
and I don't know.
You can't blame... I mean, like, imagine, I think, like, today, the reason why television's so much more not thought-provoking, but thoughtful, I guess, like you don't see a lot of these kinds of things today is because they didn't have to do, like, 26 episodes a season. They don't have to do that anymore. It's like, you only have to worry about 13 episodes. But I will say that, yeah, I was a little surprised I'm sure as a kid, I was just like, oh my God, like...
we nitpick. Okay, Star Trek fans have always nitpicked. Back in the original, when the original series was being released and they received fan mail, people would nitpick. Right? Oh, the transporter effect wasn't the same as. But
I know, because I actually remember when this episode first aired, our little group, including Hubbard, and I wish he was on this episode, we would talk about these very same things.
Well, there you go. Okay, so everyone's nitpicked on Star Trek for years and years, but I think nowadays. it's not just the elitist Star Trek Trekkies. It's like the general audience has a tendency to point out flaws and things that aren't logical. If someone has an ID card with someone else's face in a movie,
Who are the
people are going to
elite
say,
Star Trek people? There's a 1% in Star Trek.
not necessarily. I was just talking about like
Who are these Star Trek elites?
the hardcore trick that were kind of.
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I don't know, the hardcore Trekkies that I suppose there was a time where Trekkies alienated general audiences, right? It wasn't mainstream.
I think society alienated Trekkies. It was the other way.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, and now, like Trekkies are cool all of a sudden. So
well, now the nerds are cool.
Yeah, nerds are cool in general.
Okay.
So I think it was a different thing.
Everyone nitpicks like together.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone is a nitpicker nowadays.
This is the weirdest episode of Starfleet Boy because we're not even talking about the episode. But I have a statement.
Bring it back.
I promise. Based on your statement, real quick. Can I make my statement real quick?
Go.
In fact, back then we were like desperate to get people into Star Trek because, like, I think the hope was that if Star Trek continued to gain popularity, there would be more of it. Which we had a 12-year hiatus, so it looked like it was dead. But but it is a funny thing on social media. I was kidding when I'm like, who are these Star Trek elites and all that stuff, but I definitely see what you're talking about because in terms of social media, there's all kinds of new phenomena. So now Star Trek as a fandom is huge now. It's like actually like it's the top tier. It's like, oh, you like, the Marvel there's MCU, there's Star Wars, there's Star Trek, there's Doctor Who. I can't think of any others right now, but
Harry Potter.
But those seem to be like the leaderboard. They definitely like take up the leaderboard of fandoms, right?
Wizarding World. That's what
the Wizard. Now. Oh yeah. Oh my god. And I love the Wizarding World. How could I hold on? Just proof that I love the Wizarding World. Expelliarmus. Which, by the way, if you don't, do you like Harry Potter?
My wife likes Harry Potter very much. I like Fantastic Beasts.
Ooh, does she watch listen to binge mode Harry Potter?
No.
Tell her about binge mode. Does she listen to podcasts other than yours or this?
Doesn't listen to no, but she listens to audio adventures sometimes. She could listen to podcasts. I mean, if it's something that really interests her, why not?
Ask her to check out binge. And so this is the official Starfleet Boy plug for binge mode Harry Potter. I wish I was as pro as those guys are. Those guys are actually
Harry Potter. I'll tell her about that.
Binge mode Harry Potter.
Okay.
So
I had a statement I had an ongoing statement which is now paused, and I don't know what it was.
I'll bring you back to it. So, but to finish off, yes, there are these phenomenons like people who feel the need to be gatekeepers, whatever that is. People who feel like there's the need to like be exclusive. I just have to say, if you are a fan of something, it's just something you feel in your heart. No one can tell you to be a fan of it or not to be a fan with. In fact, a fan has all the power in the world. It is a fan that makes something, worth obsessing over in essence. So you go on and be a fan of whatever the heck you want. And don't let anyone tell you you're not a fan. That's it.
You don't have all power when you're a fan, though, sadly.
You have the most power. You do.
No. Okay, if you're a fan of whatever singer, okay, your theory is that like if you have the power because you buy the album, they continue to make music. You stop buying the album, maybe they might change their mind and think, oh, well, this music didn't please them. The thing is, like, if you're in the minority, like if you loved an artist for the way he was in the beginning, and he starts changing, and he starts changing to a more mainstream thing, then more mainstream people are going to come in, and then you're just going to wash away, and that artist is going to continue going in a direction that, doesn't please you. And so your power dissipates and disappears. And then you are going to have to find another artist that like executes and creates the style of music that you enjoyed in the first place.
You still have all the power because if enough people agree with you, that's just how life works. If enough people, it's
But it
democracy, bro.
doesn't, because the
But
problem is big
if
things
enough
go in
people
the
agree with you,
direction of like commercialized product, and a lot of the mainstream people don't like. Okay, sheeple. I hate the word,
I think
but
I think I think the thing
anyway.
is that like I think we're talking about maybe two different things. Like I'm not talking about being a fan for life. I'm talking about being a
Hmm,
fan right
in the
now.
moment.
Yeah, I mean, like in the moment.
Oh, no.
Yeah, if you're a fan, if you think you're gonna be
I'm
a
a fan
fan,
of
I'm
now.
not talking about marriage. I'm just talking about this right now, this moment right now, right
Live it,
here. So
live it.
you
Be
know what,
free.
Justin Bieber, I was not a fan until that one album, the Sorry Sorry album, and
Purpose.
and then I became a fan. It's like, and then I don't know if I'm gonna stay a fan. Who knows?
That's because he was. That's
Who
because everyone
knows?
hated on him because he was a child. And then when they
No, there
realized,
were a lot of people who were fans
and
of
then
Child Bieber.
from the beginning, I said Justin Bieber is no worse or better than any other pop artist. He's just another generic pop artist. I'm sorry to say this,
Sure.
Mr.
I
Bieber, but
guess that's I
and
guess
then
that's
people hated on him
where
because I felt like people were jealous of the guy, like he was so
of
successful at
course
such a young age.
he's
And
the
then when they
most
realized
successful human on the planet
when he
in his
became an
field.
adult, when he became an adult, there was no longer any more reason to be jealous. He's just another Jason Derulo or Justin Timberlake, or they've all
I
got different
I
names, but they sing the same songs.
This is a Star Trek podcast, but I'm gonna have to say I could argue with you about Justin Bieber being compared to anyone else because he's just Justin Bieber.
Oh my god! Wow,
Is Sean, is it too late now to say sorry to our audience for straying off track so much?
I thought that was another Justin Bieber reference because that's a song.
That was
Okay.
totally
Wow.
Justin
Okay.
Bieber.
I'm at this point now in my life where I understand Justin Bieber song references, which I never thought would happen.
Welcome to adulthood.
Welcome to adulthood.
So,
Okay,
so what about the other
I
thing
wanted to
is
finish my point.
yes, go ahead.
My point
Go
was,
on.
my point was, um, uh, general audiences didn't used to nitpick so much, which I think is why the whole plastic barrel that falls on Worf. No one used to like back when TNG came out. I don't think people thought too much about the whys and ifs and whats about the barrel falling. It was more about the impact of the barrel falling on Worf, and like it's
Well,
just
yeah.
we're trying to tackle this subject. It doesn't really matter if like the minutia of the events leading up to it,
It was like
are
it could have
important.
been anything. It could have been like a bad bulkhead. It could have
Exactly.
been like
It's just a
metal
plot
eating
device
bacteria. It could have been right. Yeah.
to initiate the
I totally
story.
nice bringing it
Whereas
back to nice
nowadays we don't
calming
do that.
down my
Nowadays we don't do
calming
that.
down.
Now
That's it.
movies and shows and people that produce them, they try to do their best to make everything coherent or at least seem like believable.
Well, I think that the thing is that, and this is a real danger I'm just realizing with science fiction, is that like any depiction of the future at some point will start to look obsolete when the real technology like that we actually have actually ends up proving that you know that couldn't happen like the way it happens, you know what I mean? So I think it's just an interesting phenomenon.
That's why the
So
wizarding world should be crossed over with the Star Trek, so you could have like wizards in space, and so you wouldn't have the technology problem, but it still would be like science fiction and space.
yeah, but then it becomes a fantasy. Like we need science fiction in our world. I think it's great because actually there's another. So okay, going back to the bigger story, because I think that the biggest thing that comes out of this episode is the ethics issue. Like to me, it's interesting that there's two strong plots here. There's the Worf ethics issue, which is like him wanting to commit suicide, and what the humans basically think of the Klingon rituals or ways or society
There's a cultural gap.
gap, right? But then there's this like argument about the ethics of both cultures, right? And then but then there's the medical ethics argument, which I thought was very interesting as well. And surprisingly, like I think within like the last couple of weeks, there's been news. I saw it like on, I forget, like maybe Gizmodo or one of the blogs, but like the like basically like we are reconnecting spinal columns and growing neurons and growing nerve endings and things like that in laboratories. And there's people now that are walking that had the same prognosis Worf had in the beginning of this episode, where like you either won't be able to walk ever again, or you only gain like a portion of your original mobility. But there's people with there was like a story about implants, which was also discussed in this episode, and there was a story about like like regrowing damaged tissue and bone and other things. So I think it's awesome to have watched this episode and then seen like, oh wait, look, like right now that's something that's like real, and like 30 years ago it was just like science fiction.
Yeah, well,
But
I didn't see any of those stories, but if that's freaking awesome, it's a coincidence, by the way, that we're like at this episode.
I think we're making the coincidence, but
Well,
yes,
okay, we're creating the coincidence. We want it to be one.
yes, but I mean, like these kinds of like I'm pretty sure that even at the time of this episode, the writers probably referenced like really experimental writings about medical technology. I mean, like they had science advisors, if I'm not mistaken, on the show, and like
I had them on the original series. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Next Generation had science advisors
like
too.
Gene Roddenberry started TNG, and he would have brought them on.
Yeah. So it is cool, and I think that, again, this goes back to like kind of an like a value, I think, of Star Trek ultimately, or any science fiction really, where it's more on the science, like harder on the science side, is that like it does awaken these like ideas and minds. And so I would love to speak to the researchers and see if any of them were inspired by this episode, or if they were, like it'd be neat to find out. It'd be like cool.
Absolutely sure. There's a guy in New York creating a friggin' tractor beam as we speak.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's friggin' awesome, and he's Trekkie, astronauts in space, all of them on that space, the International
awesome.
Space Station. They're all Trekkies. It's awesome.
I have a few questions. What did you think of there are two ethical questions, so we'll deal with the first one is, if you were in Riker's shoes, how would you feel about Worf's requests? Would you feel the same, or would you feel more like what Picard was suggesting? And if he had, and are you surprised also that Worf asked Riker and not Picard, because considering that Picard was like his Shadish and all that stuff?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna say one thing, and then I'm gonna stop it there, because that's a whole other discussion entirely, and then I'm gonna answer your question.
Okay.
The thing that I want to say is, was Worf did he subconsciously not want to die because he didn't ask Picard? Picard would have said yes immediately and kill him. So I kind of feel like he kind of asked Picard.
You think of Picard as like a bloodlust,
no,
or just like
absolutely not. Like, he's so like, this is the tradition, this is the honor. I will kill him. And so that to me,
Mr. Wolf, I will gladly
kill you. I will wipe your blood on my sleeve.
Yes.
That's how I see it. So I was like, okay, so he asked Riker because he knew that Riker would, he's got that clever mind. He'll find a way out of it.
I didn't understand since you mentioned that. I didn't completely understand Worf's hardcore desire to die here, or his expression.
Okay, so is that just Worf being Worf? Or would every Klingon have done the same thing in his case? I'm pretty sure a lot of Klingons wouldn't. Like, I feel like some sort of crazy Klingon would have been like, cut my legs off and give me some fucking robot legs, and I'll go kill someone on the battlefield anyway. Right?
I mean, right? Both of the things make sense, right?
Like, Worf embodies like the perfection of his culture. He enhances his culture so much because he tries to represent his culture so much that he's like a parody of it.
Yeah. It's a really good point. I would say that's true.
He doesn't live in his culture. As people point this out in every single video I make. Not every Klingon is honorable, and though that like not everyone is the same. Like not all humans are the same. Not all Klingons are the same. But Worf, I don't know. He has this weird thing where he wants to be everything that a Klingon should be, and so like it feels like that's where he's coming from. You need to kill me because I have no other choice. It's like
I think
Duras would have found
think
another
you're
way.
right.
He would have stolen some Cardassian legs and then stuck them on himself, right? Like,
Look now, I can dance. I have Cardassian legs. I killed a famous Cardassian dancer. Check out my pirouettes. Oh my god, that's crazy. Yes, that's a very accurate.
I don't know what
Duras,
Duras house member you're doing right now, but okay.
I think I was doing a Gowround impression because I can only do two Klingon voices. I can only and Worf's only sounds like Picard, so so it's generic Klingon. I am no longer going to be a traitor to my people. I'm going to be the greatest dancer that Kronos has ever seen.
Hopping bars, trying to dance, right?
Yeah, Duras the dancer. There's some
What would you have done if Wolf asked you, right? That's really tricky. Because here's the thing.
But no, since you're
okay. Here's the thing, right? You want to respect his culture and his tradition and his his kind of thought process and his way of thinking, which is he believes that he needs to die, and that's the Klingon culture. But then the human culture is I don't kill my friends, right? We don't do that, and then
Right.
so we have this clash of like races and species going on, this clash of traditions, which is I like. It's not that I don't want to respect your culture, it's just that mine doesn't do that, and I don't feel comfortable killing you. Like,
do you think
I understand
do you think that Worf should have known that and asked his closest Klingon pal and just waited? Like, should he have
I think so. I think he should have waited until his brother comes along or something. Because the thing is, even though he thinks it's best for him and his soul or whatever to die in that way, he's not taking into consideration how that would affect Riker on a long term. Like his life would be affected. He killed Worf, right? Even if you try to convince yourself every day, like he told me, and you keep on thinking, like, maybe there was this miracle procedure that Crusher would have found in the next 40 minutes.
That
a friend would have.
They find it in 10 minutes. It's not.
They do. It's like, hey, you literally pulls it out of a pocket. Hey, I got this.
But
I mean, we could use this.
Yeah, that is like a thing. Like, I don't know. To me, like, first of all, I do want to say that I think all of the performances in this episode were like top level. Like, I think everyone did, like, including Brian Bonsall, who plays Alexander. Like, I thought, watching it, I wasn't like, I wasn't uncompelled. I was definitely compelled. But I will say that, like,
it's
that's something that
emotional.
I wonder.
That moment where Worf dies, we know he doesn't die. You know he doesn't die, but he dies. And so that has no impact on me because I know he's not dead. But the moment where Crusher goes and she kneels before Alexander, there's so much.
Oh yeah, and she it was so good.
Gates' face, and then just this Alexander, like you can feel him kind of processing the death of his father. It's I love that moment.
I do remember at the time when this episode aired, when I was a kid, like those were not things that I definitely focused on. I definitely think I probably was the closest perspective was like Riker. Riker's perspective is kind of like, I think, a compelling one, and it like is super thought provoking for that plot. But I did wonder, because even back then there was this tendency, like on every major TV show, at some point a major character would become injured and be in a situation where they thought that this injury would be like lifelong, you know, like, and I think I can remember like MacGyver in a wheelchair. I'm not even sure, but you know, it's like there were always these kinds of things, and I thought it was interesting that Star Trek thought to handle that. I guess it's a trope if that happens, right? Like if it's happening a lot.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
handled
I
it
thought
in
it
the
was
Star Trek
interesting the
way.
way
They went
they did handle it
in a unique way.
in a unique and original way. I guess to answer your question is that, yeah, like I think we did answer the question, is that like I think that like I would have also said to Worf, like, you know, also I appreciate you asking me, but really this is something, and Riker essentially does that by finding out what the actual ritual is. He's like, look, I love you, but you're a total asshole for asking me to do this.
The difference between Riker and us is we would have found someone else to do it instead of us, whereas Riker found a way to trick Worf into not doing it.
Doing it, yeah, which is great. No, I think any
us.
one of us, you
in
give
our
us
situation, Worf would have been dead.
No, in Picard's situation, Worf would have been dead. It would have been like, all right,
Absolutely.
prepare the ritual. He would have prepared the ritual, right? Like within 5 minutes. And then Dr. Crusher would have come in and been
Mr.
like,
Data, prepare the holodeck.
Let's
Worf,
do this before
program 1. I mean, it's already, he's set. He punched it in on day 1, right?
Okay, so that brings up another point I wrote in my notes, which is I did think it was bizarre that Captain Picard was not more sympathetic to Riker. I thought he was very argumentative and like was just like, you're not thinking about Worf, and I wanted to say like, but you're not thinking about Will, you know, like,
yeah, like he's your friend and first officer, and you're gonna have him kill someone,
right?
And I mean, okay, so is he allowed to do that as a Starfleet officer?
I don't know.
Starfleet officer. And then, like, you go to Admiral what's his face, and you say, "Hey, hi, well, this officer killed this officer, but it's fine because this officer asked it, and he's a Klingon, and it was tradition."
It's it's a little, yeah. I did think that was a little off. Like,
can you do that every other week? Can you like kill off everyone that you don't like and just say it's tradition? Fine.
Jean-Luc, there have been a strange amount of deaths aboard the Enterprise. What is going on over there? Well, my crew's just asking me to.
You cannot oppress my crew.
I will kill anyone that asks me to.
Straight up murdering everyone.
That'll be. You know where we're going with this, right? Old Man Picard is going to be like Dexter in space. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, this is a heavy episode, and it's thematically, you know, very interesting, and we're just we're joking, kidding, and it's inappropriate.
Is it?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Who are you, and what have you done with my first officer?
I'm the captain now.
Just ask me to murder you. See how fast I do it. Anyways, no, but you're right. It is heavy. But I also wonder, like, again, like at this point in the character's development, I guess I'm laughing because it is uncomfortable to think about these things, but like, you know, Worf's been among humans. He even gives Alexander his human last name. It's Alexander Rozhenko. I don't know if Worf uses Rozhenko. I've only heard like Worf, son of Moog, right? But I guess Alexander is Alexander Rozhenko, son of Worf.
Do they have, okay, so do Klingons have last names, or do they only refer to themselves as like son or daughter of?
That's all I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I've never met another Klingon except Alexander who has a last name. So I don't know what's behind all that. I don't know.
So maybe they do have like a family name, but then they refer to themselves as son of or daughter of
the house title. Of Duras, the house of Moog, the house of what's that?
No, also, yeah, the house of whatever. But
But
then it
it
seems like
seems
sometimes the houses are really old, like the name is really old, but sometimes the houses are of literally the person standing there.
right.
So, I mean, can you just create your own house? Maybe if you're
Yeah.
powerful and worthy.
Yeah, I would think so.
The House of Starfleet Boy? Well,
The
yeah,
House
because we
of
get the
Two.
House of Quark, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot. Yeah, well anyways, so going back to that, like I also thought like, well, I don't know that like I don't know that it's always taken into account, or the show doesn't always seem to like remember that Worf himself is an anomaly because he was raised among humans. We have to remember that he did choose to be in Starfleet. He's been living amongst humans for at least 5 years now, more than that we know actually, because he was raised
Hmm.
by the Rozhenkos. And so I just think that like you're right. Earlier, I guess you pointed out it's like Worf is always trying to be like this like perfect Klingon, but it leads to him just seeming like kind of like an asshole. Like or like really inconsiderate, because it's like why wouldn't you be considerate of your son? Why wouldn't you be considerate of Riker? Like you've grown up amongst these people, and I wonder if like that's what do you think? Is that like poor
Is it
poor
poor? Is
writing,
it
or
poor writing?
is that like a flaw that's intentional in the characters? Does it come across as an
I don't
intentional
know if
flaw?
it's intentional, but I think we can count it as a flaw of the character. Like that's him. That's how
Hmm.
he is. But like we have many different cultures, as humans on planet Earth. Um, but we always said like the ideal humans, right? Always try to respect each other's cultures and understand them without necessarily imposing them on other people. Whereas Worf always seems to prioritize everything Klingon above all else. It's always the Klingon culture and the Klingon tradition is important, and everyone else can go like, you know, screw themselves, right?
I'm
And so
excited
then maybe
for
that's
when
just
we're
him.
what's that?
Maybe that's just him. Maybe that's just how he is. Maybe that's just how the character is.
A little moment of speculation here. Do you think like we're all hopeful that everyone's going to come back for Old Man Picard, right? But there's no
At least for
guarantee that that's
cameos.
yeah. There's no guarantee of that. But
I
like,
wouldn't think they're gonna be main. I think this is really gonna be a Picard show.
just what would you like to see Worf like in if he comes back on the show? Like where would you like to see, how do you envision Worf in that kind of future, aside from what may already be written, or like apocrypha, or
Okay,
um
so I would see, not taking into consideration any of the fan written novels or whatever. I would see Worf as kind of he's older, he's mature. Um, he has a lot of background with both Starfleet and the Empire. He has influence in Starfleet and the Empire, and I would see him as some sort of ambassador um, between um, both people, because at this point, the Federation or Starfleet, the Federation haven't yet accepted. I would assume haven't yet accepted the Klingons into the Federation, or the Klingon Empire maybe just haven't asked to be part of it. So they're two very distinct organizations, and so you need someone to kind of relay information between them and speak. And I think
di-
Worf would be a very good choice for that.
based around some of this, we're still in the speculation portion of the show, based around based around some of the statements that Patrick Stewart made about why he's choosing to come back.
The answer to that on HomePod.
All right. Okay.
It's always listening. Patrick
Computer,
Stewart made
shut up.
computer. I wish I could say computer instead of SIRI.
Come in. That's what Mr. CEO of Google wants to do.
Really?
Yeah.
And Majel Barrett's voice.
I hope so.
I have to get that. I'll switch everything to Google if that
I'm very
happens.
disappointed that Discovery don't use her voice, but then maybe they
Well,
could.
well, I know. I don't know, but I heard someone's working on creating a completely synthetic program that approximates Magel's voice.
I approve.
It'd be cool, huh?
I approve.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
But going back to what I was saying is that I've heard and I've had some discussions around like, well, what's the landscape going to be like in terms of the Picard show? And he had made some statements about like he's choosing to come back to Star Trek because now more than ever, it's needed in a sense. That's a paraphrase, of course. He didn't say it like that, but the gist of it was that, and it makes me wonder if we won't see parallels to our current like, not just because Star Trek, the Federation is kind of like it imagines, it's a scenario that like would be more akin to the United Nations than like America, like or one country. It's more about like the world, right? But right now there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world, and I wonder, I'm almost certain that that's going to be the landscape of the Picard show too. So it'd be neat, I think, if like we get like situations that we didn't even expect. Like, what if Worf is the president of the Federation, but he's like Donald Trump?
Okay, I see what you're doing. It's just an example. I really hope they stay away from the Donald Trump trope.
But he's a real problem. I mean, like that trope is a real, like a real problem. It's not a trope. It's actually a problem.
Okay. The United States elected him president.
Yeah, but there's a.
I know there's a significant amount of people that
but what I'm saying is
disagree, to say the least. But nevertheless,
you're right, not focusing.
Nevertheless, the country, the system in place put him as president. So I mean, I think everyone, not just the people.
I wouldn't want Worf to. I wouldn't want anyone to do that to Worf either. I was just joking. It was a bad example. But what?
I'm gonna stop there. I hope they don't go into something that is like, I don't know, too close to the reality of the world. I think Star Trek always managed to find a way around being too explicit. Sometimes they are, all right. There's the guy with the black and white face, and then the guy with the white and black face.
But I see what you mean. Like, I don't think Star Trek, if Star Trek disagreed with the politics of George W. Bush, for example, there was never a caricature of George W. Bush on Star Trek. I see what you mean.
There would never be there's this crazy, president that's,
right, they wouldn't
going on wars and whatnot.
Alec Baldwin won't be able to do his Donald Trump impersonation on. I get it. Look, I hear what you're saying. No, I guess that's. I mean,
if you see like an alien president come up with like a blonde wig, I don't think that's that's not something Star Trek should be doing.
Fantastic.
Like they have like an orange alien, right? I mean,
the subtitle of the Picard show will be "Fantastic Spaceships and Where to Find Them." It's going to be all about Picard's fascination with like hot rod spaceships.
You see, number one, this one is cloaked. We need to call in the Worf.
Fantastic spaceships and where to find them. The crimes of Worf.
The crimes of Klingon Worf.
Do you think? Would you like to see Alexander? Would you like to see an update to or hear about Alexander in the Picard show? Like, does he turn out to be a compelling enough character to for you to want to see him again?
No. Okay, I'm unfair. I would want to see Alexander again. It's just that in the context of the Picard show, I want 10 episodes on Picard, and that's it. I think they should really focus on him, and they should really focus on his arc. And I think if they weigh it down with too many like other characters that we've seen in TNG, it'll feel like a TNG reboot or a TNG continuation. And I don't think that's what they want to do. They want to do a Picard show. And then also too many cameos are gonna turn it into just who's gonna come in next, right? Like if you have Riker in the episode 1, and then Troy in episode 2, and then Crusher in episode 3, it's going, oh my god, who are they gonna bring in? Like that's not what you're looking for. I don't
Right,
know.
like
It
I want to see
distracts
Dr.
you.
Russell again. It's like,
I would like to see Pulaski. I know people hate Pulaski, but I would like to see Pulaski. I'm assuming
oh
should
gosh,
be
but like she'll be
dead.
very old. I think she's retired on like some planet, hanging out, chilling.
Oh, telling like racist stories about this android she used to know. He wasn't a human. It was a machine. Why did he keep on pretending to be human?
Oh boy. So I think we totally covered the Worf ethics, and I think we both
There's
agree
the
that
other
they're
one.
definitely
There's the other ethical.
Then we have to talk about the other ethical thing. Who was right, Dr. Crusher or Dr. Russell, or were they not, or was it gray for you? What do you think?
I think there's a simple answer to this, but then I may be
Mhm.
wrong. My simple answer is the patient's choice. I think that the doctor was wrong to do that to the patient that was unconscious, because she essentially imposed her treatment, her experimental treatment on the patient. The patient couldn't. Maybe the patient would have said, "Yes, I want to do this. Even if I die, it might help millions of people after." But they chose, and that's what Worf did. Worf chose to do this, and I think that's the important thing. The patient needs to be able to choose.
I think there were like a lot of ethical flaws that both characters were making. One thing that stands out to me, like, I mean, the ones of Dr. Russell are kind of obvious, like that example you just gave, and then also like, she she's some of her statements in that scene too, it's like they're just a little alarming. She's just like not even like, it doesn't
How's she
seem
a
like she
doctor?
really was. Yeah, it just seems a little, you could see where Dr. Crusher's coming from. But I also think it was wrong for Dr. Crusher to not present that, hey, okay, well, this is your best option, it'll get you 60% of your mobility, it's the safest option, it'll mean you'll be around for your
Hmm.
kid, but there's another option that is extremely dangerous, and I can't let you make the decision in like 10 minutes, but I'd like you to think about it for a week and
Yeah,
let me
she should
know
have absolutely
what.
presented that option, and she should have also been more open-minded when it came to the suicide option, because in Worf's eyes, that is very much something that is normal to do, and he wanted to do that. And maybe she could have tried and argued her point of view, say, hey, look, this treatment or that treatment. She could have maybe like forced or kind of argued that a little harder, but then she should have been open-minded and said, like, but ultimately, if you want to just kill yourself, or get your Klingon bro to kill you, then you can do that.
As fantastic as
I'll even do the Klingon death stream.
well, yeah, I think that like that's the thing, is that like it would have been cool if like the episode did maybe, and Star Trek's done this before, like within the episode we go forward like a week in time, and then you know what I mean, like it didn't all have.
Yeah.
I felt like the urgency was maybe perhaps unnecessary in this episode, because like once the accident happened, like eh, Worf's decision to kill himself, like it's not going to be a dishonor if he's around for like 3-4 weeks. You know, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
They could have had Worf paralyzed in a few episodes following that up. I mean, it's not necessary to have Worf's legs behind Picard on the bridge every time we film the captain.
Right.
So we could have had this story arc, and I think that is again my main complaint, is this whole thing is just condensed into one episode.
So
But then you also have this thing in the end where like the very final scene, Worf tries to get up, and then Troy says to Alexander he wants to do it himself, and then Worf says, no, I want my son's help, and this is something we're going to do together. This is like what is it, what do you call it, rehabilitation? No.
yeah, the rehab, yeah.
Okay. We're going to do this together, right? But then we never see that. Next episode, he's fine and dandy, just walking around,
I know.
which is a shame. we could have seen that. That would have added a lot more depth to their relationship as father and son, and how like he helped him regain full mobility, even if it was guaranteed because of the procedure. It's just like it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and again, cutting edge for its time. TNG
Yeah,
did the best
absolutely.
it could. Where this is where like DS9 actually becomes like a more interesting show to talk about in terms of like these longer drawn
It
drawn
becomes
out
serialized. But then
serialized.
I
Yeah.
don't like the way people describe Star Trek, the Star Trek of old, as being hard reboots at every episode. Like, all of these characters kind of forget what happened to them previously. That's not true. All right, they act very professional and they don't let it impact their job. But we always call back to other episodes. We always call back to events that happened to them and to that kind of stuff. So
and
that
and and I'm pretty sure, and there's a way around all of the critiques, which is like one just has to use their imagination and fill in the gaps, and like that's okay. I think that's fair. Like so,
no, I agree. That's good.
good thing. What's that fancy future bottle you have going on there?
My fancy future bottle. It's just it's got a straw that goes to the end, which means I can just
Suck on the nipple there.
suck on the nipple there. I pull the teat.
The
and,
teeth is very interesting.
It works, but it has this flaw. If I lift it at like a regular bottle, then I don't know, something happens with the air, and it sounds weird. So
podcast audience, that might be worth going to the YouTube to check out.
So that's the sound my bottle makes when it's inclined. It sounds like a dying creature of some sort.
It's the sound your bottle makes when you suck it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, before this turns into Drunk Space 9, which I have offline things to talk about with you, but we got to remember. That almost did that cover all my... Oh, one more thing in my notes was I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I think might be easily overlooked in this episode, and the reason why is because it's done so well, is the prosthetics. Like the spine looked awesome in the surgery
I wrote
scene.
that Klingon spine. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It really
and
is.
like just the whole surgery scene where they open up his back, and actually I have a few notes about like I thought it was interesting. I don't recall if we've ever seen the surgery bed before, but it's like it's different. It has like
I hate
a great
dorky outfits.
No, I love the red surgery outfit.
The fucking yes.
I disagree. So I thought that was a neat production design element of this episode, and it looked really thoughtful because like if you notice there's probably a lot of blood like draining everywhere, and then so there was like a soft bed that was only on the necessary parts like for his head and like his torso, I guess running down, but then the rest of it was a grate, and you just imagine blood and fluids just flowing in there, and who knows, maybe they recycle them somehow in the future, you know what I mean? Like maybe they're able to like instead of losing blood, you just put the blood right back into the patient when you're done. And I
kind of feel like they should be moving into like transporter technology to be healing people, like transport the spine out, transport the spine in, do an exchange or something. But
some things still need to be done by hand, Sean.
Okay, well, I mean, Crusher says it. I can't heal everything.
As we witnessed, and she's trying to. I thought that was cool too. Is like I did feel like it was a little glimpse of what it would be like to have an ER type Star Trek show. Like, could you imagine like a show set on a hospital ship? Yes, like it would be awesome. I would take that.
I categorically refuse. No,
could you imagine ER, the Star Trek ER? It would have been awesome.
No, but I would watch it. All right, it's Star Trek. I would watch it the same way I'm going to watch Starfleet Academy whenever that comes out. It's just that
is that happening?
It is happening. Well, okay. It was in the official like little bullet point list that they had. They had Khan, they had Picard, they had Starfleet Academy, and animated series. And so Picard is the first, and it's coming. And so Khan will be coming soon, I suppose. It's just that you got to think that like CBS, they don't just want to put out Star Trek shows. They want to have Star Trek on CBS All Access all year, so that like you don't unsubscribe and you keep on coming back. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about was that small moment between Worf and Deanna, where he asks her to take care of Alexander if he dies, and it just goes to show how important Troy is to Worf. And
I sense
because
the like, I sense that
flash
too. Like
forward,
this, yeah.
flash forward to season 7, they become a thing. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that. I don't, because there's been that underlying, I suppose, closeness for quite a while. I
For a
wouldn't call it
second,
necessarily romantic, but
for a second, I noticed because your HD symbol keeps coming up, and I was like, man, Sean looks so much like Chris Evans. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Anyways, in HD.
In HD. I would like to officially apologize to Chris Evans. I don't look like you.
I don't know. There's something there. I don't know what it is.
Starfleet boy, believe no. It's just because I'm
It's
a
like
fan
a twinkle in your eye or something. There's something going on.
I'm a fan of the Evans.
The Evans. We all are. Who isn't a fan of the Evans? I would like to see him on Star Trek on the Picard show. That would be amazing.
Oh my god.
And
Yes.
it all kind of fits in, right? Like James McAvoy, I don't know if this is real or not, said that he would play Picard in flashbacks.
Okay, he made a joke and everyone freaked out. All right,
because it's
he responded to
why wouldn't anyone freak out? Come on.
He responded to the Instagram photo of Picard saying that the series was underway, and he said something to the effect of, "If you need someone for flashbacks, I'm here." Wink, wink. He says, "You don't even need to pay me. I accept autographs." All right, so it was funny. He was just saying, "Hey, I've been young Picard. Well, I've been young Xavier, so I can be young someone else."
It's true.
He's probably also saying that not really as a joke, because considering the X-Men franchise is also over, he's no longer young Xavier.
No, there's
so
the Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix movie's coming out. It's
Dark
not
Phoenix,
over.
and then New Mutants, and then that's it. That's the end of the X-Men film.
Wait,
series.
Dark Phoenix, and then what? You broke up on that last one. Dark Phoenix, and then what?
The New Mutants.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so then yeah, maybe he does.
Yeah. So maybe he needs to work now. But then he's going to be in Split or Glass.
That's right. And then also, I wonder what Tom Hardy has to say about that, because he's the original young Picard. No, he's actually not. There's a guy on TV that was the original young Picard, so never mind. All right. What else? Oh, I wanted to also give like kind of like a shout out to a couple of scenes. Like I did like the progression of sort of the one-on-one scenes. Like you have like the really emotional scene between where Worf asks Riker then goes to Picard. Then, you know, you basically have Beverly not even like she asks Dr. Russell to stop all after that conversation in the triage room, you know, in the cargo bay. She's like, "Look, you're not practicing on my ship," and so she's like, "Okay, fine, whatever." And then Picard's like,
authority to do that, by the way.
I love
the fact, Chief Medical Officer on the Enterprise, whoever the hell you are, you're not allowed to practice on my ship anymore.
It was a badass. This to me, like something we don't do like in a structured way, but we loosely kind of do it, is we always kind of point out who owned the episode, right? And to me, this was a really
do an MVP.
Yeah,
I think it was Riker.
No, it was Crusher.
Is it okay?
It was Crusher. I vote Crusher on this one. We'll have to let the audience. She crushed it. We'll have to let the audience decide when we're not in agreement. So, audience, we'd like to hear who. What did you call it? The most valuable person on the episode?
Yeah, the most valuable player.
But as far as between us, it's a tie then. So I guess we have two most valuable players. But everyone gave a strong performance. But I just wanted to say that I like
the Enterprise. Everyone is the most valuable player.
I know, that's true. Well done, number one. But I did like that Picard kind of nicely orders her to to do the procedure, and she's just like, and I like how
Damn
she
it.
gets. Again, the other reason I think she's the best in this episode is like, yeah, it's true that the two problems are Worf's problem is the main problem. Obviously, that's like what puts everything into motion, right? But like, I think Dr. Crusher dealing with it was like probably the
Steve.
most compelling.
Steve is the issue.
Steve.
Steve didn't fasten the barrel correctly. That's why it fell.
I like how did we just invent Steve? Or is it like Bob? Steve.
I hate Steve. Why did he do that? Every issue is always him.
Captain, there have been a number of accidents on the Enterprise, and we've managed to locate the source is all Steve. Oh. What are we going to do with Steve?
All right, we might have to cut this short because.
All right. Well,
the baby has
okay.
needs.
Well, no, that's pretty much it. I know you have a baby. Little one. It's so cool. So anyways, I guess I say Crusher, you say Worf. Time to give it the ratings. I'll go first.
Ooh.
Have your idea. Do you think you know what I'm gonna rate this episode? Don't say
No.
it. Just think it in your mind.
Okay. I think you're gonna rate it this.
Okay, 8.
Yes. Oh, amazing.
I give this episode an 8 because despite any flaws and things that don't stand the test of time, it is a really compelling episode, and it gives you a lot to think about. And obviously, we've been going on for about 72 minutes, so a lot to talk about as well. And we didn't even cover everything, I'm sure.
I give it a 7.
Ooh,
I give it a 7.
That's
which
really
is close. This is
it's super close.
super
We keep
close.
our average without even doing complex math is 7.5.
Wow.
So it's like, any closing statements on why, like, or your 7? Just if you want to feel like justifying your 7 there.
No, I think we said everything. It's a good episode of Star Trek. It really tackles it. It does what I like. It tackles moral issues. So there is sci-fi concepts, I suppose, when it comes to the changing of the spine and that kind of stuff, the procedure in itself. But this is more about the struggle, the ethical struggle and the dilemma. And it has these beautiful character moments that I like.
Appropriately named. One last thing, Sean, before I let you go. If you are interested in funding or helping to promote curing spinal injuries and problems of that sort, a great foundation to look into is the Christopher Reeve Foundation. For those of you who know who Christopher Reeve is, he's the actor who played Superman in the films in the 80s, and he had a terrible accident which rendered him paralyzed. So it was a real life example of this, and so he created a foundation with his wife, whose name I forget at the moment, but it's actually named
Mrs.
after
Superman.
both of them. Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, yes, Mrs. Superman. And so that was a tragic thing that happened in Hollywood until many people he was a beloved actor. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that foundation and many others like it are behind some of those advancements that are happening, which are very parallel to Star Trek. And that's it. Live long and prosper, Sean.
Yes, live long and prosper, you too.
I'll
Everyone
see you next time, and I'll see you on Trek on the Tube. Bye.